first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for stopping child support to my ex-wife when my kids are ages 19 and 21 and I'm paying for 50% of college tuition, plus room and board for both kids? Age of majority in their state is 18. I've been divorced for almost 15 years. My girls are well-adjusted, bright and articulate young adults with whom I have an excellent relationship with and communicate on a regular, if not daily basis. Both are attending college full-time and working nights/weekends to earn some extra spending money. The oldest graduates in May 2021. Like anyone who gets divorced, my child support payment was pretty stiff and included a 65-35 split that put me in a financial bind for a number of years. Regardless, I never missed a payment, provided for private education expenses, maintained their healthcare coverage, and continued financial assistance with extracurricular activities, school outings, medical bills, etc. While I might not have lived in the same city, I maintained an active role in their lives, spending holidays, taking vacations together, visiting family, attending school/sporting events, etc. Now that the girls are both adults and the youngest has graduated from high school, I recently terminated child support payments to their mother in accordance with state law. However, for the past 3 years, I've been paying for both children without issue, as it was always my intent to keep paying the full amount until the youngest was ready to go off to college. Yes, that's right, folks. I voluntarily paid an additional 3 years at a rate for 2 kids versus 1. Now that I've stopped paying her directly, Mama Bear has turned into a grizzly and is demanding I maintain my payments to her for the next 3 years until the youngest has graduated from college. Side note here, our divorce decree specifically states that we have no agreements or responsibilities regarding college expenses. So for the benefit of my girls, I've continued to provide support and will continue to provide support. The difference now is that I'm working directly with the adult children and not my ex-wife. The ex is claiming all sorts of bills, but the girls assure me that they pay for almost everything, with the exception of their car insurance. So I'm a bit frustrated here. I will always continue to support them and assist as long as they help themselves. But am I really such an a-hole because I want to support my adult children directly versus through my ex-wife? Now for the top judgment, not the a-hole. Anything else I say will be mean, so I'll stop. Not the a-hole. Don't stop. Sometimes being mean is required. That ex-wife was likely being a jerk and just using the money to go shopping for herself or whatever. Extra money on the side, rather than money to go to the kids. She's an adult. She can grow up and get a job if she does not have one, and wants to mooch off someone else's money meant for the kids she had with them. OP, block her. You were just a wallet to her, and all she sees is a fat wad of bills. Seriously, you're divorced. Why don't you just block her completely and everything? Not the a-hole. Your ex is saying child support, but she means spousal support. There is no need to pay the middleman when you are paying directly to the source. This ex-wife seems to be confusing child support with alimony. Not the a-hole. You are not the a-hole and not the ATM. Genius way of summing it up. If she thinks she's still due, tell her to consult a lawyer to see what they say. I can't think of a one that would take the case. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not introducing my fiancé to my mother after she and my elder sister supported the affair and marriage of my brother and my ex-fiancé? As the title suggests, my literal older brother had an affair with my ex-fiancé, engaged, and married her. Now, my older brother was married at the time, arranged marriage, but I was in love and was with my ex-fiancé for 2 years approximately, engaged 5 months. My sister-in-law caught them and hell broke loose. They already have a child too, and for over a year, brother was just banished from our family. He got married at the time. But right after my dad fell ill and died, mom and elder sister reconciled with him. They attended a naming ceremony of his new child, and also remarried them with proper ceremony. I was totally against it. I was, and I'm still not over this. I consider this relationship breaker and consider supporting that affair as an act of betrayal. I told this to my mom and sis, that our relationship would deteriorate. Later, they went ahead with their support to my brother, but I didn't start any drama. Even had a talk with my brother. Didn't accept his apology though, but still attended his remarriage and naming ceremony. Left the city after a month and never returned to that home for about 6 years now. I was not alone though. Had the support of a lot of relatives and cousins, also ex-sister-in-law. The whole father's side of the family supports me. I only occasionally talked with my mom and sis, just small calls or days here and there. I was always cold. Never spoke a word with my brother though. At this time, I fell in love again, and after 5 years of dating, now decided to get married. Back here in India, we require parents for us to be married. Girls' parents would never agree to the marriage if the boy comes alone, so my uncle and aunt played that role, and we didn't even inform my mother or sister. The news of our engagement anyway reached them. My mom and sister arrived at my home crying and blamed me for not involving them. The old, carrying me for 9 months and raising me, was said, and mom said that I am punishing them for having a relationship with their first child. She told me that even my dad died without his first son being there, and I should be considerate to her as she is just acting on her feelings. I told them it is not me but my brother's affair that led to this. I told her she will be in my marriage, but after that, I am not sure if she would play a part in my life as a mother or grandmother to my child. What do you think? Now for the top comments. Not at a-hole. I fully understand why you don't want your future children playing with your brother's children. Why you don't wish to play happy families with your brother. What they did was the ultimate betrayal, and your mother has supported them before yourself. Live your happy life and leave the mess behind. Not at a-hole. She chose to support the child who caused harm to another child. She made her bed, and now she gets to lie in it. Not to mention the harm to the brother's first wife and child. Not at a-hole. Not at a-hole. And if your aunt and uncle helped you out by representing your family, it sounds like you have some support from people who matter. Our culture puts a lot of emphasis on rug sweeping to keep things outwardly pleasant, but you don't have to buy into that. I'm guessing your mom figured you'd cave eventually so she could have both her kids in her life, but that's not your fault. And it's not you who disrupted the family in an irreversible way. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for flipping out at my employees for demanding I fire my daughter? I, 50 female, recently inherited a business from my late husband. My daughter, 21 female, is currently taking a year off from college, so I hired her as an operations manager because I felt she needed something that gave her a sense of purpose while she explores her other interests, including songwriting and fashion design. I also hope to one day pass the business on to her. Her job basically requires her to go in around 3 days a week. Around September, she got an internship in a fashion label, so she's been doing work for my business virtually and has recently been coming in again once or twice a week. Her fashion internship has her working closely with the CEO who she admires a lot, and it pays a lot better than most internships in this field. So she's been stressed out and crankier. At home, I know she's had less patience and her aunt jokingly calls her a Karen. As the months have gone on, I've picked up that most of my employees have been pretty passive-aggressive towards my daughter, and I once overheard somebody saying they wished my daughter's stepsister still worked there. My daughter is not my late husband's biological daughter. Yesterday, I came in early to see a few of my employees standing outside my office. They said they needed to talk to me and said my daughter was unpleasant and was constantly out of the loop. The janitor said the last straw for him was last month, when my daughter came in, saw her stuff in storage, and an argument ensued between her and everybody there because she forgot we had moved most of our operations to our other office space. Then one of my employees said they can't do this and didn't want my daughter around. I didn't like the tone and the self-righteousness in each of their expressions. I stood up and said they had no right to speak about my daughter this way and slandering her competence. I said I hate the way they looked at my daughter, and said an insult to her was an insult to me, and told them don't think they can just demand executive decisions that are mine alone. I then told them this meeting was over, and they should worry about their own jobs and performance. Am I the a-hole? Our company prides itself in keeping our employees employed no matter what the economy, and I don't think people can find that much in our area since our part of the state's economy has been in the toilet for years. Now for the top comments. So, you just tanked the business your late husband built. You clearly have no idea how to run it. Your daughter clearly has no idea how to run it. And you are antagonizing the people that do know. A business is not a place to stash a kid needing time to find herself. What you did is an incredible insult to your late husband's memory. You're the a-hole. Nepotism at its finest. You're the a-hole. She's going to be a very expensive employee before this is over. You're the a-hole. I've worked in a family-run business, and I can tell you that if they're angry enough to confront you, it's really bad. You are creating a toxic work environment, and if you don't fix it, you're not going to stay in business long. I mean, even the janitor is pissed. In the office jobs I've worked, the janitors don't have to have a lot of interpersonal interactions with people, especially if they don't like someone. As long as you aren't an otherworldly slobber jerk, it's just not really a big problem for either party. And OP's big bargaining chip is a tanked local economy. This business isn't long for the world. You're the a-hole. If multiple people collectively came to you to express their dissatisfaction, you should listen to them. Especially because she's your daughter. That took a lot of courage for them to come forward. Not to mention the unfair hiring practice of giving your daughter such a high position just to give her a purpose. Also, when the janitor tells you there's a problem, it's actually gone beyond a normal problem. They hear and know everything, and when they speak up, you better listen. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter if she gets pregnant, and then she will be kicked out? I, 48 male, and my wife, 51 female, welcomed our daughter, 25 female, and her husband, 26 male, back home because of their money issues back during the beginning of the pandemic. We have 2 other sons, 15 male and 8 male. Our daughter has always been somebody who has longed for a baby, and I know that she's been talking about it with her husband. My wife and I decided to sit her down and tell her and our son-in-law that she is allowed here, for now, indefinitely. But that if she gets pregnant, then they will be given until the baby is 3 months to find a new house/apartment. My wife and I do not want another baby under the roof. When we do have a grandchild, then we will love that baby with no tomorrow. But we don't want to deal with the crying or inconsistent sleep schedules. We are already stressed out because our youngest has been going through some stuff lately. He has recently been determined to have Asperger's syndrome, and the idea of having a baby there would probably not be good for him. As you can predict by the post, our daughter got upset and said that we were being terrible parents. And if this was indicative to our attitude towards a potential grandchild, then we wouldn't have any contact with them or the baby. My wife said she was taking it the wrong way and being dramatic, which led to our daughter storming out of the house and saying that she needed time to think. Our son-in-law had been silent during the whole ordeal, but he followed her and we haven't heard from them since. My wife is firmly set in her ways right now, but I'm starting to have possible second thoughts about it. I don't want our daughter to resent me/us for this. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If they can't afford to live on their own, then they can't afford a baby. And it would be very unfair for them to have a baby while living with you. Yep, babies cost more than rent or mortgage, and babies don't generate equity. Responsible parents should make sure they're in a good place to have a kiddo. And the home of someone else who doesn't want babies is not a good place. Not the a-hole, OP. Not the a-hole. If they are so broke they had to move back home, they certainly don't have the money for a baby. You are entitled to your request. Your daughter needs to grow up. Eventually, the pandemic is going to stop being a valid excuse. My husband and I desperately wanted a baby for 2 years but couldn't afford one, so we had to wait. I totally agree. If they can't manage expenses of living in their own, they should throw a fit over having to wait for a baby. Not the a-hole. If your daughter and husband are having financial issues, having a child should be the last thing on their minds. Can't think of many more selfish things than having a child with no financial support or home to live in. It's genuinely gross.
Am I wrong for telling my dad's wife I own the house she lives in? My 29 female dad married a woman named Maria a year ago after dating for 4 years. My dad wanted to buy a larger house for them to live in, but couldn't afford it without selling the home he lived in at the time, which is a unique property that he dearly loves. Although I now live abroad, I like the area he lives in, so my husband and I offered to buy a house there that my dad and Maria could live in. My dad agreed to this on the proviso that we not tell Maria that it wasn't him who paid for the house. This made no difference to me, so I agreed. So the house they live in is in my name, and they live there. I never planned to tell her. Recently, I went back to my home country and decided to stay with my dad for half my time there. And the whole time, Maria made it clear I was an inconvenience and that me doing things with my dad was annoying to her. But I'm not a confrontational person and I don't react too much, so I let it go. However, 2 days before I was due to leave, she came into my room and saw that I had my dad's dog on the bed. Now, this is a dog that my dad has had since before he met Maria and that I raised. Maria doesn't allow him on her bed, which is fine, but I've always had him sleep on mine. She flipped out, saying this was the final straw, that she'd had enough of me disrespecting her in her own home and that I had to leave. I tried to de-escalate the situation, saying we should just wait for my dad and sit down and talk this out, but she was adamant that I had to leave and that she had the authority to make me. After several minutes of me trying to explain to her that it was absurd of her to try and kick me out of my dad's house without talking to him, she said that what she said went, and since she married my dad, this is technically her house. I just chuckled and said, since my name is on the deed, it's technically my house. But there's no need to get technical, we should just wait for my dad. She was shocked and left the room. When my dad came back, I told him what happened, and he went to speak to her. There was a shouting match, and she didn't speak to either of us until I left 2 days later. My dad is mad, I told her, which I get, but since then, I've also got texts from her kids saying I was wrong for telling her and making her feel like a guest in the house. This isn't the case, she isn't a guest, she's a tenant. But so is my dad, and the only point I was trying to make was that she didn't have any business trying to kick me out of my father's house, let alone my own property. I didn't take it there until she did. That said, maybe I should have just left the ownership out and let my dad handle it. Edit. For everyone talking about Maria being a tenant and tenants' rights. She doesn't pay rent, so I don't know if that makes her a tenant technically. If it does, then as a landlord, I'm pretty sure I have legal recourse over the remodeling she did, without notifying me or my approval. And anyway, I wasn't there as a landlord, I was there as a guest of another tenant, and actually she did have several weeks' notice I was coming in any case. I'm sure it's a legal rabbit hole, but the only reason I use the word tenant is to say that since she lives there, she isn't a guest in the home. Now for the top comments. Now wrong. She internally struggled with wanting you to do what she wanted. It escalated due to her need to be the boss in her house with, you disrespect me in my house. You were gracious to allow her to save face several times. You offered options, call my dad. This type of personality will lose it once they know they don't have control. You did not make her feel anything. She created this situation. You again are gracious to allow them to enjoy a beautiful home. Maybe she feels deceived by your father, but the children need to pipe down. It was your first visit, and she was not cordial to you. The children were expecting that house to go to them eventually. I mean, then they would want to know it's not their mom's in that case, and would be pressuring OP to deed it over. OP keeping quiet only continues their father's lie to his new wife, who sounds kinda like a chore. My guess is kids are used to steadying her boat. Not wrong. In the comment, OP points out 1. It's a furniture owned by OP, and 2. They do not pay to live there. If I am doing someone a solid only to be disrespected like that, I'm done doing the solid. The stepmom is obviously a gold digger on a power trip. Yes, OP agreed not to say anything, but she didn't agree to being disrespected in the home she lets these people live for free in. Oh, for real, she definitely wants that house when he is gone. Or at least for him to leave the house to her kids. Not wrong, but good luck. Next story. Am I the idiot for returning presents my wife got for her friends' kids because they cost too much and impacted me buying what I wanted for my daughter? I work full-time, and my wife, 35 female, barely works part-time since she can't handle full-time work. Whatever she earns, she keeps for herself and her personal expenses, and I pay for all of our living expenses. I'm content with this arrangement. She does have access to my personal account in case she ever winds up needing a bit of extra money. My only stipulation is that, if it's going to be over $150, tell me about it first. In the 5 years we've been together, there have been a number of times she's helped her friend buy birthday or Christmas presents for her kids. Once or twice she's been short on what she wanted to spend and has taken from my account to cover expenses. Cool, no biggie, because she told me about it beforehand, and it was never anything too extravagant. This year, her friend is needing help again, and my wife brought up helping her out and she may need to borrow some money from me. I told her that was okay, but to not exceed $300 this year. I have a 16-year-old daughter from my previous relationship, and with our financial arrangement, my wife is hands-off when it comes to finances concerning my daughter. Her mother and I decided to split the cost of a used car for her for Christmas. Then my wife did her shopping for her friends' kids, and when she got home, she told me she exceeded the limit by a lot, like closer to $850 spent. When my wife told me that, I told her she had to take it all back and get cheaper things, and that I gave her a limit and why. My wife insisted she couldn't take it all back, because she already told her friend what all she got, and her friend was over the moon. She felt it was unfair that less fortunate kids had to get less so my daughter could have a car, and asked that I talk about delaying the car purchase with my daughter's mother. I told her absolutely not. Said she wouldn't take them back. When she went to shower later in the day, I took her purchases and the receipts and returned them myself. I was able to get cheaper, generic versions of some of the items, but not all. My wife is unhappy about this and has been cold after calling me controlling and unwilling to compromise. I think I compromise plenty, but my daughter comes before one of her friend's kids. Was I wrong? Okay. To me, even paying $300 for gifts for someone else's family seems excessive. But $850. It's not your responsibility to cover for gifts for another family. Absolutely, you're in the right. I thought $300 would be sufficient to split between two teens, which would allow for 1 or 2 nice gifts for each kid. It absolutely is. I never received $425 in Christmas presents from my parents. $150 is much closer to reality. And you guys aren't even these kids' parents. Not even just $850, but $850 of OP's money. Plus whatever his wife spent of her own money, and whatever the friend spent for her own kids. How much money is being spent on these kids? Honestly, with that much, I would definitely want to look at the receipts and make sure it wasn't gifts for her. I did look at the receipts, and none of it was for her. The biggest expenses were a VR set and a digital art tablet or screen type thing. Not wrong, and I would kick her off the account. She agreed and she broke the agreement that was on her. And I would further explain that my obligation to my daughter far exceeds the wife's obligation to the friend, and that her failure to understand that, and that she took extra money from the account, is why she will no longer have access to that account. I wonder if wife's friend is his secret partner. I can't imagine spending that much on a friend's kids. Do the kids even know that wife is the gift giver and not the mother or Santa? Rant, gifts from Santa always irk me. I guess it's the long game to make kids behave for some time because someone is watching them. Yes, I read the kids are teenaged. OP is not in the wrong. Next story. Am I wrong for giving my son his own hotel room, but making my daughter share with a cousin she doesn't know? Me 30 female and my husband 49 male have been married for 2 years. We have a baby that is almost a year old. I have 2 kids, Rory 12 male and Emily 12 female, of my own, while my husband has 2 sons from a previous marriage, 13 males. My kids had to share a room since they were born, but once I got married, we moved to a bigger house and they could have their own rooms. My daughter was happy about it, but my son had a really hard time adapting to this. He didn't like being alone, and he got scared a lot, crying all night and peeing himself, but he eventually adapted to the new reality and has been more stable. A sister of my husband is getting married in Hawaii, and the whole family is going there for a big destination wedding. The idea was for the kids to share rooms by sets of 2. Emily would have to stay with one of my husband's nieces. Rory would share with one of his stepbrothers, and the other one with another cousin. But that didn't work. Rory says that he doesn't want to share a room with none of his stepbrothers because they smell bad. He told me to allow him to stay with his sister, but Emily doesn't want that. The only other option was to put him with one of the other male cousins, but he warned me that if it turns out that they also smell bad, he would refuse to stay in the room once we were there and go sleep on the rainforest. Finally, I begged for my husband to pay for another room, so Rory can be alone and I wouldn't have to suffer any more of this. But now, Emily is mad because she says it is unfair, that her brother will have his own room, but she has to share with a cousin she doesn't know. I think she should understand that her brother has a harder time in this kind of situations than her, and not make everything even more difficult for me. Emily is a really social and extrovert girl. She didn't complain about this issue before. I feel she is just being petty, but now she is angry with me, and I don't know what else to do. Am I the idiot? Now for the top comments. Yes, you are. Have you ever considered parenting your son? Nope, too busy making a baby and new family with her much older and likely much wealthier new husband. They've done about as poor a job of blending this family as possible. There are so many stories on here of parents doing terrible jobs of blending families and treating their children well. Perfectly exemplifies the biggest reason why second marriages are more likely to fail than first marriages. My mom is on her 4th, any stats on those? Yes, you are wrong. Your son gets rewarded for acting up, and your daughter is left behind because she doesn't complain enough. You are not parenting your son, and it's your daughter that suffers the consequences. OMG, that was me growing up. I'd be the good girl. My brother would kick off and get his way, because it was easier for them to give in than argue with him. If I then kicked off because it saw how unfair it was, I'd be disciplined. You're the idiot. They smell bad is not a flipping excuse. Let him sleep in the rainforest. Or you could try acting like a parent. This. And do they actually smell bad? Seems like a weird excuse for a preteen. If they actually do smell bad, beyond the inevitable mild teen boy funk, that would be another parenting issue. These are OP's stepsons, and if they need to have basic hygiene reinforced, that's a job for both parents. Exactly. Those boys are starting puberty, and teen boys aren't exactly known for their excellent hygiene. The parents need to make sure the boys understand when and how they should keep up their hygiene now. Last story. Am I wrong for not allowing my sister to make her kids' food at my house during our Christmas party? I come from a broken home, so we have our Christmas with Mom's side the first weekend of December. I 44 male hosted, usually my sister and I switch off host duties. My sister has 2 daughters who are incredibly picky eaters at 18 and 15 years old. My sister would come to family parties with a box of pasta and a bag of frozen chicken tenders that she will make for her daughters. I want to know if I'm in a hole for what I did here. I knew that is her drill with them, but I've always found it to be very annoying, especially when I'm trying to cook and she's taking up space making the pasta and chicken tenders. This year, I told my wife we will not be letting my sister in the kitchen this year, and the girls will have the choice of eating what I prepared or not eating at all. My sister accused me of being a cynic and getting joy from watching the girls be uncomfortable. I told her they are old enough to eat like adults. Also, the food I make is pretty standard. I do a filet roast, BBQ ribs, cheesy potatoes, stuffed artichoke, breaded cauliflower, ratatouille, and a salad. Certainly, some of these must be foods that an 18 and 15-year-old should be able to eat. Well, the girls sat and ate bread and butter while telling me that my food looked gross. I looked to my sister to calm them down, but she told me I deserved this, and it's not their fault for being picky eaters. I know I could have just let my sister do her thing, but it was the principle of the situation. I'm not sure if I was being a petty a-hole, or if I had a legitimate reason to be upset. Edit. There are no medical conditions or food allergies. I made it clear to my sister in advance that I would not be allowing this. She decided not to listen. I did not anticipate this blow up, but I am willing to compromise. If the girls really won't try new things, my sister can make their food at home and bring it. No. You told your sister ahead of time that you would not allow her to use your kitchen. If she was that concerned, she could have declined your invite or fed her kids before showing up. Her kids being rude was uncalled for. That's why I think I might not be in the wrong. I made it clear to her beforehand that I wouldn't be allowing this. No, they are 18 and 15, not little kids. They can be picky, but you don't have to accommodate that. It's very annoying to have someone come into the kitchen and taking up space when you're cooking a big meal. They really had a third option as well, which is pack a freaking sandwich and eat that. Takes zero kitchen space or accommodation. Fourth option, stuff your face before you get there. I have used this option many times over the years. This is how people turn 30 and still refuse to eat anything but pizza and chicken nuggets. No one is being forced at gunpoint to eat what you make. They can eat before or after the party if starvation is such a risk. Agreed. The girls need to get used to going places where their mommy won't make them a kiddie menu. They aren't picky eaters if they've never eaten anything besides what they could tolerate when they were 6. They're limited eaters, and that is 100% the result of their mothers coddling them. I wouldn't cater to them either. They're guests in someone's home. Unless they have allergies or sensory issues, they either accept the invitation and the menu or they don't attend. I think they're old enough to start expanding whether they like it or not. If they start trying more foods, they will figure out what they like. My sister is coddling them. I can't tell you the number of times we've been at a restaurant, and she asks the server if they could make pasta and butter.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my family they have no right to be upset that I ignore my culture because they alienated me? I, 33 female, am half Native American and Irish. I am literally half of each. My paternal grandparents were Irish immigrants. My mother is reservation-born, with family still on the reservation that she is close to. I am almost a clone of my late paternal grandmother. It's shocking how similar we look. The only difference is that my hair is dark brown, while hers was a blonde. I grew up kind of the black sheep of the family. They didn't like my dad, and it felt like they kind of took it out on me. My maternal grandmother made it a tradition to gift each girl in the family a set of hand-beaded moccasins for their 16th birthday. I was excluded until my mom brought it up and my grandmother gave me a pair 6 months later. My aunt taught all of the girls how to dance. I was excluded. The only thing I wasn't excluded on was learning how to drum. My paternal grandmother lived with us, and she knew they treated me differently. She made it a point to teach me the folklore, her recipes, and all about our family. My sense of taste in decor is also very Irish. I moved far away from everyone after college, and I really haven't looked back. One of the only family members I am still close to was attending a work thing for a few weeks last year. I brought up that they could stay at my place, since I was closer than the hotel to where they were going, than the hotel his work offered to put him up in, and it was on my way to work with an almost identical schedule. They took me up on it. When my cousin arrived, he was absolutely shocked that my house looked so Irish and that there was no trace of my native heritage. He accused me of assimilating into white culture. I pointed out everything he already knew, that I was purposely left out of traditions and family events because I either look white or they hated my dad. So why would I identify with the culture that rejected me first? He told me that I should have tried harder to embrace my culture and show them that I wanted to be part of their traditions instead of just flat out dropping them altogether. I told them that I shouldn't have had to try to be included by my family as a child. I should have just been accepted as family. In the end, we agreed to disagree until I noticed that he took my drum. I had it in the guest room closet because I had no room for it in my bedroom closet and didn't want it to get damaged by my a-hole cats. I ended up calling him demanding the drum back, and he refused. My drum was returned to me after my uncle who gifted it to me took it and mailed it back. It ended up escalating, so now my whole family is involved in calling me the a-hole. Edit. It's actually literal pictures of Ireland that I took with my professional cameras from my vacations there with my paternal grandmother. I'm not talking small prints. I am talking very large professional prints of the landscapes. I took so many pictures because I loved it so much that there are literally pictures of the landscapes, both rural and urban, in every room. In my den and my bar, it has a lot of Guinness things. My husband even got me a Guinness tap. I also have a lot of my grandmother's hand-embroidered things that are Celtic embroidery, or are very reminiscent of such. She made money selling things like it here, and did them herself. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your family sounds very toxic. I shouldn't have had to try to be included by my family as a child. I should have just been accepted as family. I completely agree with this. And this guy stole your drum and refused to give it back. You should have asked him if stealing is also included in their culture. It's just so ironic it hurts. You should have tried harder to fit in. Steal's the only piece of her native heritage she has. Feels like there is some insular thinking going on here. Like, if you want to be native, you need to go 200% and really want it. Gatekeeping heritage. Not the a-hole at all. I am also a mixed-race person, and the only side of the family that wanted me was also the white side. If someone doesn't want you for your skin color, that's on them and their prejudices, not you. Also, your cousin is a tremendous douche and a petty thief for stealing your drum. I wouldn't blame you if you went no contact with that side of the family. I'd encourage Opie to tell them to bug off. Not the a-hole at all. It makes sense you'd identify closer with your Irish heritage. People can be closer to one side of their family without different heritages. It's usually down to how welcome and loved you feel. Your cousin is a big a-hole though, for how they spoke to you and for stealing from you. Without an apology and explanation from them, you'd be well within your rights to never speak to them again. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for threatening to kick my brother out for trying to undo my service dog's training and telling me I don't need one? My brother Jack, 25, recently lost his job. Our parents do not have any space for him at their home, so he moved in with me, 23 male by the way. I have a service dog, Ripley. He is a 6-year-old Saint Bernard and an absolute gentle giant. I suffer from some pretty severe agoraphobia and anxiety, prone to panic attacks when I leave the house. Ripley is a godsend and has been helping me get my life back together. Jack doesn't really like that I have a service dog though. He doesn't believe that mental health issues are a big deal and that I just need to get over it. Which, let's be real, is a lot easier said than done. We've never been particularly close, and he has often accused me of being an attention seeker. Due to the fact that Ripley is a service dog, it is very important that I keep on top of his training, and I have a strict routine that both Ripley and I follow. However, around 3 or 4 weeks ago, I woke up to Ripley growling. Upon further inspection, I saw Jack holding a lead and trying to pull Ripley out of my bedroom. I intervened and Ripley ran to my side. Jack told me he just wanted to save me the trouble of walking Ripley and had taken it upon himself to do it instead. I explained to him that this is not appropriate and that I am the one who walks Ripley. He seemed to accept this at first. But over the past couple of weeks, he's been going out of his way to go against my wishes. He tries to feed Ripley at different times, tries to give him food off his plate, will try to pet him when we're out in public, when Ripley has to be focused, etc. Literally anything to undo his training, which he admitted kinda smugly one night when he'd had a drink. Eventually, I snapped at him and told him give it a rest. He fired back that Ripley must be absolutely miserable as he has no time to be a normal dog. This is, of course, completely untrue. He then called me an attention seeker and said I'm not physically disabled, so I do not need a service dog, and that the only reason I had Ripley was to get attention from strangers. I threatened to kick him out, and Jack went silent and left the room. Later, I got several angry texts from family members for threatening to leave my own brother homeless. I do regret it, as I think I went a bit too far. Jack is absolutely terrified of having nowhere to go, and the threat might have been a bit cruel. But at the same time, Ripley isn't just a dog. He helps me. He calms me down from panic attacks, helps/gives me reason to leave the house, and just generally makes my life easier. And doing his training would completely destroy that. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Kicking your brother out is a proportionate response if he continues to interfere in your treatment/accessibility. It's a proportionate response if he interferes with the care and training of your animal. Your family members who are so outraged about your response? That's good news. Your brother can depend on them if he finds his current living situation untenable. Thank you. They all conveniently don't have a room for him. I wonder why. Not the a-hole. Kick your a-hole brother out anyway. He's admitted he's sabotaging your medical equipment, and do anything your problems are real. Cut him off and cut him out. The only thing stopping me from doing so is that he doesn't have anywhere else to go. But thank you. First, thank you for all the support, you guys. The kind comments really mean a lot, and I've been trying to read each and every one of them. I've seen a couple questions in the comments, so I figured I'd just answer them here. Ripley is a service dog, not an emotional support animal. He helps ground me during panic attacks, helps me remember to take my medication, and brings my medication to me. I can't say the other thing he does because of the rules, but when I'm in a dark place and trying to do something I probably shouldn't, he is trained to interrupt me and prevent me from doing it. My family know exactly what Jack is like. They all conveniently had no space at their houses to take him in, as they don't want to deal with him. They also do know how bad my anxiety is, and agree that Ripley is the best thing for helping me deal with it. If they think any differently, then they haven't let on. And thank you to the people who mentioned that having Jack here is making Ripley uncomfortable. I feel like a horrible person for letting him stay so long and making Ripley deal with that. He's a good boy and shouldn't have to be uncomfortable in his own home. I have texted several of my family members, including my parents, with my side of the story. Turns out Jack has twisted it a little bit. I told them that they are welcome to take him in, but I cannot keep him in my home anymore as he is putting myself and Ripley at risk. Some family members are on my side now, but there are still a fair few who think I am an a-hole. And guess what? My parents are somehow managing to clear out their storage room to make space for Jack. Isn't that weird? Anyway, thank you again, kind people of Reddit. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex's mother take my girls for Thanksgiving? Today, my ex's mother contacted me asking about my girls for Thanksgiving. I was shocked. She hasn't talked to me in months, even on their birthday. I won't be able to afford/provide Thanksgiving without help, so I told her let's work something out. I will host Thanksgiving and do all the cooking and cleaning if she could provide the food. Nothing like a huge feast, but my girls are at the age where holidays are exciting. I told her she could take them to the little park for some one-on-one time. She told me no, she wanted them to go see her side of the family. Again, this is totally out of the blue, and I am not comfortable with them going. I might be too paranoid, but a few months ago, My ex took them for a visitation but ended up leaving the state with them and blocking all communication. It was almost a week, and I had to give descriptions of my girls to the police for the Amber Alert, and I never want to go through that again. I mention this only so it doesn't seem like I'm just saying no. There is no custody agreement, and I have a restraining order out against him. She claims he won't be there, but I'm calling BS. While I want my girls to have turkey dinner, I'm not sure if I'm willing to risk it, and she made it clear I could not come along, even just sitting in my car across the street like I suggested. Am I being irrational and an a-hole? Edit. The only reason I'm second-guessing is because I know how important family is, plus the harassing guilt trips I'm getting. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and I think I'm almost certain your ex is going to be there. I wouldn't risk it, since your ex has a history of essentially abducting your kids. I agree. I so badly want to give my girls the best life possible filled with family, but not at the cost of their safety. Being with a mom who loves them is the best life. Start a new tradition instead of turkey just for you guys. Not the a-hole. All of that is incredibly suspicious. Trust your gut. If you aren't comfortable and have legit reasons, don't do it. This isn't just about time with your kids. Otherwise, she would agree to a joint event or allowing you to come with. This is clearly about separating you from the kids. No way this is going to end well if you agree. Edit. Also, I've been in some bad places for the holidays. What makes a holiday special is the time you spend together, making it feel special. When they are that young, the dinner is not all that important so much as the atmosphere you create. Make paper turkeys and color them. Pick a movie to be your special Thanksgiving movie and make popcorn. Let your kids pick a low-key meal they love and make it together. Sit down and list reasons you are all thankful. Tradition is not built on simply the cliches of what you expect from a holiday. A whole meal is a lot of work, money, and stress. Simply focus on making it a day of happiness, family, and enjoying your time together. They will remember that more than any sort of meal. Thank you for this. You are so right. Your ideas are awesome.
Am I wrong for agreeing to help my brother out financially, but not mentioning that I was doing so by canceling his debt to me? My older brother is somewhat useless, but my parents love him. He mooches off everyone. My dad retired a few years ago and can no longer afford to support my brother and his stupidity. So over the last 5 years, I have lent my brother about $10,000, and he has paid back roughly $600. Well, he is getting married and he needs money for a honeymoon, like $2,000, which I can afford, but I don't really feel like lending him money I know I won't get back. So I said no. He kept calling me and texting me saying that his fiancée deserves a good honeymoon and that I should help him out. I point out that my parents paid for his degree, and I had to go into debt to get mine because they had nothing left for me after he took 6 years to graduate, and that he still owes me $9,400. Finally, he gets my parents to call me and ask for the money lol. I'm already low contact with them, they owe me money too. But they start trying to guilt me, that I'm his little sister and I should love him enough to help blah blah blah. After about a week of this crap, I lost it. I told them fine, I will meet him at their house and help him out financially for the last time. I showed up and we sat down at the kitchen table. I pulled out all the contracts that I made him sign when I lent him money. I also pulled out a printed copy of the check he paid me the $600 with. I said he had a choice. I could lend him the $2,000, but they had to pay me back what he owed me first, or I could tear up all of his debt to me. Huge fight ensues. Said I'm a jerk for being so mercenary. How dare I treat family in such a transactional manner? I am a terrible person for letting him think I was going to help. Did I want to make them homeless by asking them for the $30,000 that they owed me too? Blah blah blah. I said to call me when they decide. Now I'm getting crap from family because they are telling everyone that I won't help out family, that I'm a terrible daughter and sister. So I started asking everyone how much they were going to pay for his honeymoon. No, we don't mean that we should help. Just you. You're his sister. Okay, which of you guys is paying off what he owes me already? Radio silence. But I found out from my cousin that they are all talking about me behind my back. LOL, I don't care. I feel kind of horrible for getting his hopes up though. Am I the idiot here? Edit. He didn't pick, so he still owes me money. I have signed loan agreements with all of them. So if God forbid my parents die, I get paid before he gets anything from the estate. Now for the top comments. Not the idiot. You need to go full no contact with these people. All you are is a wallet, and all they are is open hands. I know. And it's not like I'm rich or anything. They literally borrowed my life savings. I'm slowly building it up again. I'm glad some of my money was in untouchable retirement funds. To be honest, they didn't borrow your life savings. You gave it away to them. It was a mistake to give away money that you couldn't guarantee that you would get back, and now you're out $39,400. Meh. I made sure to get them to sign loan agreements. God forbid my parents pass away, I can collect from the estate. Since it was loan agreement signed, just go to debt collectors/bailiffs to get your money back. Why should you have to wait for them to die to get your money back? Nope, why are you the family ATM? If his fiancée deserves a honeymoon, he should get off his butt and provide it. Amazing how generous leeches are with someone else's money. Exactly. Reddit is notorious for making suggestions that people cut off contact with relatives for the most minor disagreements. While I think most of those suggestions are unrealistic and not at all how the real world works, I think this is one instance where OP would be justified for going no contact with her family. They sound like a burden and financial, emotional, mental drain on OP. If most interactions revolve around financial demands and guilt trips, I would say ditch these people. I wonder when was the last time they just wanted to hang out with OP, show her love, ask her how she was doing, etc., without looking for a handout. Next story. Am I wrong for calling the police on my mother-in-law? I, 28 female, got married to my husband 34 male a week ago. We got engaged about a year ago, and when I got engaged, my mother gave me a pair of earrings which she said every woman for generations in our family has worn to their weddings. They are 4-carat dangling earrings, and they are worth a lot. I felt very honored to be given them, and it made me feel closer to my grandmother who had died 2 months prior. About 3 months after that, I went wedding dress shopping with my mother, my sister, and my fiancé's mother. I brought all the jewelry that I would be wearing to my wedding to see how they matched the dresses. When I put the jewelry on, my mother-in-law kept going on about how gorgeous the earrings were. My mother explained the story and how they were a family heirloom passed down generations. I found the dress of my dreams and bought it. On the day of my wedding, I had everything ready in my room. My wedding dress, my flowers, my shoes, my makeup, and my jewelry. I was in there with my soon-to-be mother-in-law. I then needed to go to the toilet, and when I came back, my mother-in-law was gone. I wasn't sure what had happened, but I just thought she maybe got called away to do something. I then noticed my earrings were gone. I knew straight away that she had taken them. I found her and confronted her, and she said she didn't take them. I asked if I could look through her bag, and she said no and gripped onto it. I said that if she didn't let me look, I would call the police, which I then did as she still wouldn't let me look. The police arrived and searched her, and the earrings were found in her bag. They were returned to me and they asked if I wanted to press charges. I wanted to talk to my fiancé first, and he said he would support me if I wanted to. I didn't want to decide in that moment, so I just ignored it and had a great night. That was a week ago, and ever since then, I've been getting loads of threatening messages and calls from my husband's side of the family. My mother-in-law has been sending me extremely hateful texts, and I think I want to press charges, but I'm still not sure if it's a good idea. What was your wedding like? You can't just not include how that went down. I didn't want to decide in that moment, so I just ignored it and had a great night. What about mother-in-law? I'm assuming she was banned from the wedding, but what happened? I want to know. You should update your post, please. She was kicked out of the venue and we just both turned off our phones so we wouldn't have to hear from her. My husband never had an amazing relationship with his mother, so he was just glad his dad was there. His parents are divorced, so his dad wasn't bothered either. Even more reason to press charges. That side of the family is shady, and you probably were never going to hang out with them anyway. She could have let it go or taken the favor, and now she's dragging it on. Be sure to add harassment, intimidation, and threats to the charges. It's only been a week, but the sooner you do it, the better. Not the idiot. Mother-in-law is a thief that tried to make off with your heirloom earrings. Screw that. Press charges and be done with her. And then double down by getting her family to harass OP, as you do when you don't want to be charged. Press charges for both harassment and theft. If OP doesn't, the family will just keep at it. Prove that messing with your family has consequences. Wildly trashy mother-in-law. She knows OP could press charges and is harassing her. Maybe just a dummy, but still. She knew the story, she stole them, and wouldn't come clean and stubbornly held them until cops were called on her. I agree. Press charges and add that you're being harassed, so maybe a judge will give you a restraining order. Look into a safety deposit box for the earrings, because I wouldn't trust any of mother-in-law's flying monkeys to have even a chance of access. I agree with all of this. What on earth was her endgame? To quietly sell them and just have sudden extra money that no one would draw lines about. Trashy and stupid by the sounds of it. Definitely go back to the police to press charges and definitely take all the evidence of harassment with you. Next story. Am I wrong for wanting my daughter to meet my girlfriend despite being an absent father? Hey all, kind of hard to find unbiased opinions in real life, so I figured I'd turn here. I, 29 male, had a kid with my ex-wife, 32 female, 10 years ago, my daughter. And there's no real way to sugarcoat this, but as soon as she was born, I left and I never ended up seeing her in the hospital as a baby. Was never really present in her life at any point, but ended up getting a divorce 11 months later with her getting full custody, of course. I married young, was really stupid and thought I'd end up being a good dad despite no skills, but got scared that I'd turn out like my dad and chickened out. Not really an excuse, but an explanation, I guess. I paid child support for the first 3 years but stopped afterwards. I've been speaking with the girl's mother about reconnecting with her, but she thinks it's best that I stay out of their lives majorly. But I think making amends is always possible, so I'm not sure. I just really want to make things right, but I will respect their decision. I've seen her a few times, but her mother has always introduced me as a friend. She says she will tell her when she is ready. I've been dating a girl, 28 female, for about 10 months, and I really like her. I think I could definitely see a life for us, and I know that sounds weird, but she's also said the same. I was also speaking to my daughter's mother about meeting this girl, but she says absolutely not, and that's a bad idea. But if I want to reintroduce her into my life, isn't it fair that she gets to see my life too? Am I wrong for this? Her mother says it's a very bad idea, so it's making me think I am, but I just genuinely cannot see why. Obviously, I care for this girl and I will care for her life too, but a relationship has to be two-sided, so I don't think it's out of the question to show her my life too. Now for the top comments. You're the idiot for a few reasons. I paid child support for the first 3 years but stopped afterwards. Why? But if I want to reintroduce her into my life, isn't it fair that she gets to see my life too? Not if she doesn't even know that you are her father, and not if you are not behaving as her father. Quit being a selfish a-hole and leave this poor child alone. You can't even support her financially, but want to talk about fairness. Sounds like OP owes 7 years worth of child support before he gets any say. After that, it's still going to be a long prove it that he's serious about being in the kid's life. 8 to 9 years. He didn't make it the whole first year, and I doubt he actually knows how old his child really is, since he can't even pay child support. You're the idiot, you are not her father. You are her sperm donor. You paid support for 3 years, which means for 7 years the mother has been alone even financially. You don't get to just walk back in because you have a girlfriend you think you might be with forever. This child isn't a relationship device. She's a human being whose life and feelings matter more than you and your selfish desire for making amends. Try therapy to deal with your daddy issues before marriage and having children with this new woman. For real, OP is obviously just using his daughter to impress his girlfriend, as if it'll show her how grown up and serious he is. I feel so bad for her. I figure he's probably tried to do something like this before, or would try to do it again, and each time, she thinks she's finally going to get to know her dad and then is let down. It sickens me. Info: does the current girlfriend know you're a deadbeat dad with no relationship to this person? If not, it sounds very much like you're trying to win brownie points by manufacturing a relationship that isn't there. If she knows, why is she so eager to meet your daughter? To your knowledge, has your daughter ever asked her mother about meeting her father? She doesn't know the full extent of it, such as why I left, but she knows that I did leave, so yes. And she's not really eager, I wouldn't say that, not that she wouldn't want to meet her. But she agreed to it if it was allowed because she heard that we were speaking again. Tell your girlfriend the truth. She deserves to know what type of person she is with. That way she can decide an emotionally stunted and immature person like you. You're the idiot. Now for the last story. Am I wrong for not returning my mom's ring? I, 28 male, and my ex-girlfriend Mela, 28 female, were together for 7 years. Mela was obsessed with marriage. She literally had a Pinterest full of wedding ideas for years. Around year 4 of our relationship, she started outright saying that she wanted to be married, and wanted to be proposed in this way or that way, and basically making plans. I told her that I would think about it. While I loved her, I wasn't sure if marriage was for me. We had an argument and she made an ultimatum: either I propose or we break up. I didn't make a decision and she broke up with me. I realized I wanted her in my life, so I proposed. My mom gave me her engagement ring, which wasn't Mela's style or size, but she seemed happy. I started getting second thoughts and we got into a fight. Mela took off the ring and gave it back to me. We broke up and we went our separate ways. I took that as she was giving me the ring. Mela and my mom were close, and she was invited to the wedding. Mela is getting married to Devin, 25 male, who's apparently head over heels for her, and bought her a $15K engagement ring. My mom wanted to wear her best jewelry for the wedding as it was a lavish event, and asked for her ring back. I told her I wouldn't give her the engagement ring back as it was mine, and I didn't want Mela to see the engagement ring that she was supposed to have, since it would probably make her feel bad since she married the first guy who was there. My mom is upset. My family is calling me an idiot. My dad, who made the ring, said I was a selfish brat. I keep getting nasty emails from relatives about the situation. Am I the idiot? You are. She gave you her ring with a specific purpose in mind. Her ring is not yours if you didn't use it. Give it back. This OP is doing some fancy mental gymnastics to justify keeping the ring. My dude, your mom and dad aren't being tacky and rude to request their ring back. In fact, you're the one being extremely tacky and rude, and an idiot for not giving back the ring. She just gave me the ring. She didn't say propose to Mela with this ring. Asking back a gift is rude and it's tacky to wear at Mela's wedding. You're the idiot, and a delusional one at that. So, she gave it to you well before the topic of marriage came up between you and Mela. Not exactly. She gave it to me a year before I proposed. So she did give it to you when you all were talking marriage then. Your mother didn't give you that ring. She lent you a family heirloom for the express purpose of proposing. You should have returned the ring to her as soon as Mela returned it to you. You're the idiot for refusing to return your mother's ring to its rightful owner. This was a gift for Mela, if anything. It was really just for you to propose with. Mela returned it to you, so you need to return it to your mother. Don't be greedy and bitter, do the right thing. You're the idiot. Technically, your fine didn't have to give you the ring back at all, and it was your mother's before you so desperately needed, because you kind of liked her more than not being committed. Give your mom her ring back. This just seems petty. That would legally be stealing if Mela kept it. And you keeping it is also stealing. Think about it, it was Mela's but she called off the engagement, so now it's not hers. The same logic applies to you. It was your mom's, she gave it to you for engagement. The engagement is off, so give your mom her ring back. What is wrong with you?